It might
Yeah,
be.
probably. I think Roger might have gone to bed. But in any case, welcome all to the next
Right.
episode of the Vlogcast. This is a very special episode of the Vlogcast because this is voting week.
Woo!
At the end of this week, we are going to be voting for the Versus Awards, the very first of them. I'm hoping to get as many people voting as possible. So if you need a ballot and you're a friend to any of us on the Inside or team, or SeptumSin versus the World, or any of the others involved, please ask, and we shall send you a ballot. But I thought we'd do something fun here. Is that we'd look here? We both got our awards open,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just
Okay.
gonna go down and we're just gonna say, like, if we had to vote, like, right now, like I said, now vote. Voting is Friday. Friday is when it's due. Which one we would pick? Just off the top of our head, kind of a Freudian thing, I guess you could say.
I thought you hated Freud.
Yeah, well, and that hatred goes on to one of the categories there. So let's go ahead and we'll start with each of these, and I'm just going to list them real quick, and then we'll just go one at a
You're
time.
not worried about unduly influencing the vote?
Well, you don't know. I mean, these are what we would think of,
Ah.
and how we go, and also this should advertise some films to people out there
Yeah.
who are interested. So let's just we'll do a preliminary. And who knows? Maybe we'll find consensus. I don't think we will, but we might.
How about why don't we do something a little more interesting? Like do maybe like our top two. Like what would be
We'll do our top two votes.
Yeah.
So we'll start with Best Picture. I'm just going to run down real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Da Five Bloods, The Father, The Last Blockbuster, Made in Abyss,
Dawn of the Deep Soul,
Mank, Onward, Psycho 8, Soul, Sound of Metal, Trial of the Chicago 7, Violet, and Wolfwalkers. So let's start with you, Dave. Out of what you have seen and off of reputation, because you can utilize that too if you want to make a vote on that, what would be the two, if you put it down to two right now, what two would you look at as possible votes?
The two that I would look at as possible votes would either be The Father or Violet.
I was thinking, he's like,
okay.
He's not going to choose Violet? How about you, Jake?
It's easy. Soul and Sound of Metal are head and shoulders above the rest.
For me, Soul and maybe Made in Abyss. I really liked Made in Abyss.
Okay.
So let's go down. Let's dissect this a little bit. I'll start over on this side. And of course, Made in Abyss was just really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at this as a whole because you can't take a trilogy without looking at it as a whole. And it does a good job of at least capping off for now. Very good film, very well animated. If you're talking about best all the way around, obviously Psycho 8 was a runner-up. But but as far as like
sorry, I can't not laugh.
as far as like just all around amazing, Made in Abyss. Of course, Soul also, just all the pieces go together perfectly. The music, the acting, the animation, it just all works well like a true piece of music.
Mm-hmm.
It is truly there. What about you, Jake?
Well, I have to admit, for me, Da 5 Bloods, The Father, Made in Abyss, Dawn of the Deep Soul, Mank, Onward, Trial of Chicago 7, and Wolfwalkers are all top tier films. They are all films I really, 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 really liked.
You left off Psycho 8.
I did. There are 3 on this list I would not put on this list, that I will admit. But Sound of Metal was an abso-freaking-lutely incredible film. One of the best uses of sound in any movie I've ever seen. I do think Paul Raci gave one of the performances of the year, and Riz Ahmed was barely to be outdone by that. and it just was a freaking incredible movie. And Soul, I liked even better. It was Pixar near the top of their game, and Pixar near the top of their game is still better than 90% of the films out there.
If you can find a copy of Sound of Metal, Dave, you should check it out.
Sadly,
it's on Prime.
Is it a documentary?
No. It is a straight out drama, and it is amazing.
It's about a drummer and recovering heroin addict who is losing his hearing and has to deal with that. And it's so it's not a happy-go-lucky film, but it's really good.
So Dave, you picked it was The Father and Violet. A little bit, just a little bit behind those.
Oh well, I didn't know what I was getting into when I saw The Father, or even heard about it.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm it's not that I'm nervous or anything like that, but whenever I hear a lot of praise about a film, sometimes I tend not to like it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into this with an open mind, and knowing that Anthony Hopkins was in here, I was pretty sure that he was going to be phenomenal, because I do not think I've seen a film where I have seen one bad film with him in it. And I guess it was a little bit more close to heart because it wasn't that long ago that my grandmother actually passed away. And she died of dementia and something else. And watching her go and watching this performance, it was just so close to home. And I ended up bursting into tears like by the end of it. And it was just an emotional experience for me. So well done for Anthony Hopkins for that performance. He basically sold his soul for that performance, I think. And that I think that besides Meet Joe Black, this is his second best performance, I think, and his third would be Silence of the Lambs. But hands down, I mean, he is Hannibal Lecter.
It is one of his better ones, no doubt.
So,
but Violet's the thing about Violet that you have to know is that the director behind Violet, he is very young for this kind of film. I mean, I don't think there is another young kid his age doing a film of this deep nature. And I thought the relationship between the two characters, at least before everything went south, I thought that the relationship between the two was like pretty cool. It's the kind of relationship that you would want in a relationship. I mean, the place that he took her to this big giant ass chair. I mean, that is
that was kind of fun.
And the poetry that he wrote her. I mean, it was very romantic. I mean, I thought these aspects of the film, and though I know the cast was not exactly spot on, I think the actors and acting did really well for the background characters, and I just thought the story was kind of beautiful at the time. So it was a powerful film for me for the level of creativity that was coming from a very young person.
Right.
Well, we've got 5 films that we've got between us, and I do think the winner will probably come from one of those 5. To tell you the truth. Well, somewhat. But yeah, it's a pretty good thing there. And I would like to see Fang Boner. It would be interesting.
Hey, it just so happens that Fang Boner, the movie, has our buddy Tito who started with me on this show. Tito and his wife.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, let's see here. I can move this a little bit
there
over.
You go.
There you go. So best live action short. 2020 and 1917 parody. Feeling Through. The Letter Room. The Present. Two Distant Strangers. And White Eye. So for me, it's between Two Distant Strangers and 2020 and 1917 parody. It really depends on how I'm feeling at the time. If I want to be serious about it and I really want to think about race relations and all that stuff, Two Distant Strangers is going to win, hands down for me. But 2020 and 1917 parody, if I'm really wanting something that made me feel good and laugh really wholeheartedly, that one's probably going to possibly pull out for me. It'll be between one of those for me.
Okay.
And you, Jake?
Well, easily my favorite one in this category was, well, not my favorite per se, but the one that I thought the most about was The Present. I think it's an incredible film. The second one is harder to call, but I am tempted to go Two Distant Strangers. But like you, I can't decide between that one and 2020.
It was such a fun film.
I'm probably going to go with The Present with 2020 as my backup, I think, honestly.
So how about you, Dave?
I'm conflicted. Because I saw most of these. I don't think I saw 2020.
It's on YouTube. You should definitely watch it. You will like it, especially after that year we have all gone through. It is just worth the watch because it's hilarious to watch.
Have you seen 1917?
I've seen it. Yes.
Okay,
I don't own it.
You'll get the references.
Yes,
then.
You'll appreciate it even more.
Yes.
Okay, so my top one that I liked out of all of them was Two Distant Strangers.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it had a lot of relative shit that has been going on, and maybe it was a shout out message to what's going on. At least with all the police brutality and all that jazz. But Feeling Through was another awesome film. It was, to me, it was like there are a lot of barriers that we have with certain people, and this was the perfect situation to show you, how someone with all these barriers can have a conversation with someone so, unexpectedly smart enough to actually have a conversation with him and actually start to get to know him. So I thought Feeling Through was pretty good. I thought The Present was I thought what happened to the father was just downright rude.
There are no weak ones in this category.
It pissed me off. So unfortunately, because it pissed me off, even though it's a good film, I would put that as my third.
See, that was a rare example of where being pissed off made me like the film more.
Well, it's supposed to make you pissed off.
Exactly. There are certain films where the more angry I am afterwards, the more I feel the film did its job. And then there are films that just piss me off, and it's because the film didn't do its job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because things like that happen all the time. I mean, when we were going through Hungary, we were my family and I. We were on a tour bus, and we had stopped by a border patrol, where supposedly the border patrol was just supposed to look at our shit and let us go on. Well, they took our shit, got drunk, went away for a couple hours, came back and threw our passports right back at us.
Hmm.
So I know that border police can be dicks. So
Yeah.
especially in this particular way.
Yeah.
Now, one more thought on Two Distant Strangers, and I mentioned this in the video we just recorded. That's actually processing right now, and we'll be uploading shortly because I want people to be able to see these. Because again, voting is due Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this multiple
that
times.
cop reminded me of Michael Rooker.
A little bit.
I did
He
like.
didn't have that distinctive voice exactly, but he kind of did the part.
What I liked the most about it was it did have a positive message as far as this was going. And I said this in the other, but the fact that, he had the gun, but he didn't choose to use the gun. He was basically like, no, I don't care how many times it's going to take. I'm going to find a peaceful solution to this. And I love that. That is just, it shows, this person can be the better person, even in the face of such adversity where many of us would have said, screw that. Shoot him and move on. Though I did like how basically it's like, well, I'm not going to move. Then a SWAT team raids it because the number doesn't.
Exactly.
It was just like many different scenarios that could have played out.
So let's go on. But like I said, there's no like weak ones in that category. Best animated film. There's no real. Well, I'm not gonna say there's no real weak ones in this category, but there
are definitely some weak ones.
So there's Burrow, Genius Loki,
Yeah.
If Anything Happens, I Love You, Yes People, or you can pronounce that. So
Ja Forkio, maybe.
Opera and Out. I think most of us got to see all of these. I did make Out available. Out's the only one that wasn't available in that set, but I did make it available on the so that people can watch it that don't have Disney Plus. So we'll start with you, Dave. What would be your two, and what would be your reasoning behind it?
My top one would be without a doubt. If Anything Happens, I Love You.
just no.
There is no if, ands, ors, or doubts about my top one, and I'm going with the fact that there's not a lot of films that can do stuff without sound, without dialogue.
Yeah.
Right.
And this was a perfect one without dialogue because it showed you a story. Of two parents who were missing their loved one, and what happened and why it happened, and it was just perfect, and it was emotional, and it was just memorable, And my second one would be Burrow.
So what did you like about Burrow?
Burrow was cute. I mean, it had a laughable moment in the middle of it, and the fact that he was trying to make his home amongst all these other people, and just ended up flooding the whole place. But then they all worked together in the end and made sure that he was part of their home. So
and a good palate cleanser after anything.
Yes. Exactly.
So how about you, Jake? What would be obviously Genius Loki?
Genius Loki's the one that does not belong here, honestly. But no, I agree. If Anything Happens, I Love You is phenomenal. It is one of the best animated shorts I've ever seen. It's one of the best animated films I think I've ever seen. It is incredible, and it blows you away. The second choice one, it's kind of hard to call. I would probably go with Burrow myself. One thing I would say about Burrow is it's a Pixar film, but it doesn't really feel like a Pixar film. Definitely doesn't look like one.
Sort of like that one, In and Out, or what was it? Remember that one? The one about the it was also an Oscar nominee. Was it In and Out?
Are you talking about Night and Day?
Night and Day. Yes.
That was kind of an interesting oddball. But you know what Burrow actually kind of reminded me of a little bit was Fantastic Mr. Fox. It kind of really gave me a bit of that vibe. But I would almost give Yes People that one's almost, it's a close third, like right behind Burrow.
For me, of course, If Anything Happens, I Love You Again. I really think this one's going to be this one is probably the closest one I can predict as a possible winner as I can get. Because it's short, it's easy to watch. Well, not easy to watch. It's short, and
it's easy to find. It
easy
is
to
on
find.
Netflix, so yeah.
But it is a rough one, and I'll admit you have to become some kind of monster not to feel something from this one. And they did a lot with very little when it came to time. Now, Out would be my second choice. I like the concept. I just think I like the lighthearted way that they dealt with the subject. Coming out is a really difficult thing for a lot of people in that community, and I feel like they handle it in a tasteful way, and just something nice. Again, much like Burrow, a palate cleanser. All right. Moving on. Okay. Original screenplay. Aaron Sorkin for The Trial of the Chicago 7. Andy Sierra for Palm Springs. Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. Calther Ben... Okay, you say that.
Calther Ben-Hania.
For The Man Who Sold His Skin. Peter Docter, Mike Jones, and Kemp Powers for Soul. Ryan Barton Grimley, Hawk and Rev Vampire Slayers. One of these is not like the others.
Not quite.
So,
although I will give it this, it had a creative screenplay.
So this is one that's it's a hard one for me when I'm looking at these. Probably it would go between The Man Who Sold His Skin and Trial of the Chicago 7. Both remarkably well written. Trial of Chicago 7 has a remarkable, like just in general writing, very powerful overall. And the way that they did it, it made you feel things much like anything else, and left you being involved when you don't like a courtroom drama like I normally don't. But I still enjoyed the movie. And The Man Who Sold His Skin, I think, is very underrated. I think people, I am sad that many have not seen this. It needs to be seen. It is a really well done film. And I think the writing is very apt to the times, with the Syrian refugee being the man without a country. It's just that way. How about you, Jake?
Well, and again, I loved Hawk and Rev Vampire Slayers, but one of these does not belong. All the others were really, really solid screenplays, really great screenplays. I loved the originality of Palm Springs. I loved the originality of The Man Who Sold His Skin. Soul. Promising Young Woman had a little bit of that going on, but it was also just a really solid script. Trial of Chicago 7 may not have been as original, but it was solid. But of the bunch, I want to say Soul was my highest ranked of these. And so I would definitely put that on there. And I really honestly can't remember off the top of my head what order I had the others in. But I want to say Promising Young Woman would probably be my second. But it's really hard to say. Palm Springs, Trial of Chicago, they're all solid. So I'm going to say Soul, maybe Promising Young Woman being the second one.
How about you, Dave?
This one is a little harder for me because I guess I didn't really want to see Trial of Chicago 7 because it's got Sasha in it. And
it's only a piece of it, though. It's more of an ensemble piece. So.
Yeah.
And he's hard to recognize. He reminds me more of a God, what was his name? He doesn't come across as Sacha Baron Cohen. How's that?
I hope so, because he really ruins everything that he's ever in. No offense.
And he got a whole bunch of his films from me.
I know. I got them just to have them, just to say that I have them in my collection. I have not given them a chance, but the trailers just made them look like shit. I'm sorry.
If I remember correctly, you participated in the Hugo discussion, yes?
I did not like his performance at all.
Ah, okay.
So yes, I did. Unfortunately, he just doesn't act when it comes to acting. So
I always thought he was I thought he was a really good Javert and Les Mis. I know it wasn't Javert. Thenardier.
No, absolutely not. He was sleeping through that performance.
See, now Russell Crowe, I did not like in that part, but that was.
I just think that if he knew how to sing, he probably would have been able to do that better. But unfortunately, he looked the role. Russell Crowe.
He's in a band.
Well, it doesn't mean it's good.
I think they were stretching as far as Russell Crowe in the role, especially since Jean Valjean and his policeman that was chasing him. That is one of my favorite stories, and I've seen many different adaptations, and that particular role just wasn't for Russell Crowe. I'm sorry.
Over musical ability, it was much like gosh, what was that one? It was the one about the people with like the kind of not opera, but it was the Oscar darling. People loved it.
You have to have probably seen it. There was a live performance that they did of the Les Miserables thing, and if you saw this live performance and you saw the policemen singing next to the guy who was playing Jean Valjean, you would point that guy out and be like, okay, that is what I wanted to see.
Well, I actually performed "Bring Him Home" for my high school as one of the things on the stage, and I actually landed all the notes in the performance, which was there, and that takes a lot of work, and just a name. It's not just the name of the actor that's going to pull that across. But in any case, speaking of that, what would you, if you had to pick two, which ones would you throw down if you haven't seen enough of them, just based on reputation?
I would say my number one on this list would be Promising Young Woman. Mainly because I mean, I love this movie. This was one of my favorite films of 2020. I wasn't sure whether I was going to like it. I saw it from the previews. It looked weird. The music, I don't know. It just, my fiance wanted to see it more than I did, and when I finally saw it, I loved it. I mean, it was a fantastic revenge story. I mean, what that woman went through to take care of the business that happened with her friend. I mean, that's just something else. I mean, and those guys deserved it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it and Violet have a lot of similarities to them? Because to me, I felt like there were a lot of similarities to how they ran that.
Well,
there were some similarities. Maybe that's why I like Violet so much. It's not that it was a copy in any way, shape, or form.
Copy, but just similarities.
There were similarities.
This one adhered to the old proverb of revenge is a dish best served cold, and Violet was more like revenge is a dish best served lukewarm.
Yeah. Neither one of them.
Palm Springs
revenge. Neither one of them really got out of it.
Palm Springs, even though it wasn't an original recipe, it had some original comedy in there and some awkward comedy there. that I liked, at least in the male, and in the female. I guess she was kind of an odd duck too. So I'm kind of glad that I saw it.
So less original and more extra crispy. So
well, it makes sense in Palm Springs. You leave it out too long, it's going to be crispy.
And both of those are strong contenders, I think. Though I definitely would urge you to see some of these other ones, definitely, if you get the chance. Especially Soul, if you haven't seen Soul, because I do think we have that one up there for you to see. So you're not having to sell to the mouse for it.
My thing is with animated features lately, they've been catering a lot to the black culture, and
one does.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. And I'm not trying to be racist or anything like that. I am white, so I apologize. But is it catering more to their culture, or is it catering more to her culture? You know,
it's really not so much catering to. Although jazz is a huge part of the film. So you could say jazz culture is a huge part of it, but it's catering more to the idea of learning to appreciate life. And also it's a love letter to music.
Yeah.
It's a love letter to music, but it's also about learning to appreciate life. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily a racially oriented story. But it uses jazz as the framework, and jazz is, traditionally.
I guess it depends on how much you hate jazz.
I don't hate jazz. I just wonder where this culture is going, where we have a whole animated African American.
It's a story that could have been anybody up front for it, because it is a good story. And many people were upset that they didn't include the person enough, but I'm not going to go into that kind of aggravation. I think that it is a good story, and it doesn't matter.
Okay.
If you look at it and say, well, there's a person of color in the lead, therefore I'm going to hate it, then you're going to hate it. No matter.
I don't go into a film doing that. But I always tread dangerous territory when it's all African American cast. So
it's not all.
No, it's not.
Means. I mean, shoot, the supporting actress is not.
Yeah, no.
The person who's actually like right by his side is white. So it is a like I say, it's very well done. If you've liked any of Pixar's films in the past, you'll like this one. It has amazing music. And I do think it has a good shot at Best Picture. It just is an amazing feat, so to speak. I just say, approach it with an open mind.
Okay.
I don't look at it as anything more than that.
I wasn't trying to bring up any problems or anything like that.
Just like I say, approach it with an open mind. I think you'll be fine. It's not like, say, Judas and the Black Messiah.
Well, I think those thoughts that I put out were exactly why I've had a what is it? I didn't exactly want to go out and rush to see it because of that. So,
no, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by it. So let's go to adapted screenplay.
Yeah.
And I am going to have you do all of the pronunciations. Matter of fact, you're going to read them out for me.
Okay.
So that because you've got the perfection on it.
Okay, so adapted screenplay. We're going to start with the hardest one of all, obviously, Evan Jacobs for Cool Summer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But also, we've got...
What does adapted screenplay mean?
It means based on material. I think the description the Academy gives is based on materials previously produced or published. So basically, it's either an adaptation of a book, play, or short film, or something along those lines. A film that uses characters from another film, or book or play or whatever.
Suicide Squad. The
Suicide,
Suicide Squad.
well, like, so it could be a prequel, sequel, or something along those lines. I get kind of wonky about the prequel sequel thing, but you know what else? It's not original, you know. So what would you call it?
Best sequel.
Yes. So for this one, we've got Hideyuki Karada for the script, Kyle Jones for the adapted script, and Jake Jung for the translation of Made in Abyss: Dawn of the Deep Soul. Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, Christopher Hampton and Florian Zeller for The Father, Evan Jacobs for Cool Summer, Ruben Santiago Hudson for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and Vanessa Taylor for Hillbilly Elegy. So to answer your question more specifically, Dave, I know Nomadland is based on a book. Cool Summer is a prequel to a film. Hillbilly Elegy is based on a book. The Father and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom are based on plays. And Made in Abyss, Dawn of the Deep Soul is a sequel to a series. So, yeah, that's...
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dave, what would be the two that you would pick for this category?
So far, I only know one.
The
Father? Well,
Yes.
based on reputation, what would you
I haven't heard of well, if I had to choose based on reputation, I would go with The Father and Cool Summer as the second.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Because I have not seen any of the others.
Hmm.
Nor even well, I know I've got Made in the Abyss. You gave it to me.
Yes. See Made in Abyss. See Hillbilly Elegy. Of course, people have actually accused Hillbilly Elegy of being the opposite of what you're worried about with Soul. As a matter of fact, of it catering too much to white culture. I don't agree with that, but I think it's worth a watch, most definitely.
Okay.
But I'm showing my hand a little bit too soon. So, what about you, Jake?
This is kind of hard for me to call. I think based on part of the issue for me is that I did see the two previous Made in Abyss films, but I've not yet seen the series. I have seen the film that Cool Summer is a prequel to, but I've not seen any of the other source material or read the source material. So it's hard to fully judge this category. But I do think that I would actually have The Father as a slight lead. Whether the number 2 spot goes to Nomadland or Ma Rainey is hard to call. I think I probably would go with Made in Abyss just because.
If I were to look at it, Made in Abyss, just because it is just such a good story. I like it. There are some issues I have with it that put it as a tying factor. Mainly, I feel like they try to sexualize really young-looking characters too much in Made in Abyss.
Was there sexualization?
Oh yes, there's. Well, not sexualization in the strictest sense,
right?
But they do talk about it a lot.
Well, yeah.
And that's it's very awkward coming from characters that look like elementary schoolers. They're tweens, but still, it's.
I think they look more like young tweens, but yeah, the animation.
Well, either way, it's still
the animation style definitely doesn't jibe with an American sensibility of that dialogue. Yes.
So now, as far as the other one, though I like Hillbilly Elegy, and I think that one should definitely be up there. I would go with Evan Jacobs' Cool Summer. I love I love 1984, 1985, which it's a prequel to. I feel like it is a great story. It has a lot of heart to it, and I do feel a lot of strong beats to it. And so it's going to probably be between those two for me. And Cool Summer is just a really fun story. I mean, it's a summer that any of us could have had in the 90s or 80s. Maybe not so many serial killers involved, but you know, it's still fun. If you haven't, did you watch 1984 or 85, Dave?
No.
Because that was the sequel, the previous film that he did. Did you watch Insect?
No.
Okay, so you haven't watched any of his animated.
No.
It's worth it. If anything, I know that it'll be useful to you, because then you'll have another one down that you can do the review for him. So that'll at least go for it. But you'll like Cool Summer, I think, Dave.
All right.
So let's talk documentary feature.
Nice.
Crip Camp: A Disability Revolution. El Agente
Topo.
The Mole Agent. In Search of Darkness Part 2. The Last Chapter, My Octopus Teacher, and Welcome to Chechnya. This is a strong category.
Yeah.
I liked all of these documentaries. They all have things that I really liked. I mean, Crip Camp for me is a huge one, because I'm a huge proponent of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it's a huge step in that direction. If you've gotten any sort of aid related to disability at all, and I'm not talking just like the money, but like, you know, ramps, or the fact that they would be willing to accommodate. It's good to see what the people had to go through for that, and that really is a strong one. Mole Agent is delightful in many ways. My Octopus Teacher is one of the best nature documentaries I've seen. Welcome to Chechnya is just chilling. And but to me, In Search of Darkness Part 2 is my favorite. I'm just such a sucker for 80s horror, and as a film buff, I had to decide whether I'd go political or I go on what I love. And I decided to go with what I love. And In Search of Darkness Part 2 hits that spot big time. Yes, it's super freaking long, but it is so in-depth. I think these two parts, and with the upcoming Part 3, it is going to be the most comprehensive 80s horror documentary that there is. I mean, they even gave lip service to Slime City a little bit, and I think they're going to give more of it. So there's some really cool things they touch on. The Last Blockbuster would be my other one. Not because I like Blockbuster, because I agree with Lloyd Kaufman on that one. But I like what it represented, and it just those two would be my favorites on that. So Jake, what are yours?
Well, we've sadly gotten to a category where I have not seen all of them. In fact, there are two here I have not yet seen. I still need to see In Search of Darkness Part 2 and Welcome to Chechnya. But based on what I have seen, it would be My Octopus Teacher with the Mole Agent as the second.
You just like that tentacle porn.
Yes, you gotta love that tentacle porn. Now, I loved Crip Camp too, and it's a great one, but I do think My Octopus Teacher followed by the Mole Agent. I really liked a lot about The Last Blockbuster, but it really, honestly, compared to the other three, I felt like the other three felt much more professionally done, much more strongly, tightly edited. They made their points a little better. The Last Blockbuster was fascinating, but to me, it wasn't on the same level as the others. Like I said, I still need to see those other two, but definitely those would be the two, Octopus Teacher and Mole Agent.
How about you, Dave?
I'm going to have to go with the same two that you went with. I haven't even seen In Search of Darkness, and I've heard great things about it. So
I think you would love that series, Dave.
I wanted to pick them up. Trust me. It's just I just didn't have the money for them, and it was expensive at the time. It was like $70 that it wasn't exactly whole. I was paying off other people, so but. I would love to see if when they put this third documentary that you're talking about together, if they put one where you can get all three in some kind of a thing, and I would definitely make sure that all my other sellers would be sitting on the sidelines, be like, okay, where's my money?
At least you can see this digitally, which is good.
Yeah.
I've made it available, but I think you have a digital copy anyway, if I remember correctly. But yeah, and you said the last Blockbuster is the other. You saw that one.
Yes, I did see that one, and I do plan on picking up a copy of that myself. Mainly because I remember Blockbuster very much as a kid. I mean, my dad was not one to look at my videos that I would rent if he would rent videos for me when I was a kid, and that's how I saw The Alien Dead from Fred Olen Ray, and I didn't even. See, I could never figure out the damn title to that, and it wasn't until I talked to the Camp Blood director and told him my dilemma about finding this movie, and he found it for me. So it was like, it was like cool because it was the one from my childhood that I'd seen from a Blockbuster.
Is that Brad Sykes?
Yeah, that was Brad Sykes.
Sykes is an incredibly nice person.
Oh yeah, he is an incredible nice person, and look out for the High Fear.
Eventually. I know. I'm psyched for that. I've seen the other two. I want the other one. The trilogy. I told him as much. He's like,
well, I'm a big producer behind that.
Even more reason. But so, best film documentary short subject: A Love Song for Latasha, Call Center Blues, Do Not Split, E.T.'s Among Us 4, reality of E.T. human hybrids, Hysterical Girl, and The Speed Cubers. Have you seen? I know you've seen the E.T.'s one, Dave, but how about the others?
No, none of the others. So the ETs would probably be my number one.
So let me run down to let you get a basic idea of the subject matter, and then maybe you can give us a second based on interest level.
Sure.
Love Song for Latasha talks about the girl who ended up getting killed that really started the LA riots. Call Center Blues is what was it about again?
It's about deportees who work in call centers along the border.
Do Not Split is about the Hong Kong demonstrations. Hysterical Girl is basically an FU to Sigmund Freud. And The Speed Cubers is about these people, and one of them, matter of fact, one of them is an individual with autism spectrum, and how he actually utilized that to gain fame and a place in the world. It's actually
specifically in Rubik's Cube competition.
Rubik's Cube competition.
I actually think that one actually sounds pretty good, so I'm going to go with The Speed Cubers.
It's pretty fun.
Oh yeah,
based on hearing. If you sold it to me. Like a car salesman, that one sounds like one that I would probably go for.
And that one's on Netflix. So is Love Song for Latasha, so they're pretty easy to find.
Hysterical Girl's on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, is it? YouTube? Okay. Cool.
So Jake, your two?
Well, Love Song for Latasha was my top pick. I honestly can't remember beyond that, but I want to say The Speed Cubers was probably my number 2.
Okay. Do Not Split is my top, but that's because Hong Kong is one of my soapbox issues right now. I just hate that. I just hate that the people over there are losing their freedom, not just from a human rights standpoint, but from a love of film, because it's basically the end of Hong Kong cinema, and that is sad because Hong Kong cinema was such a unique thing in the world, but now they're going to be the same as all the rest of Chinese cinema, monitored constantly by the communist government. Who might be monitoring us right now? That's the
You
one
never
person.
know.
But the hysterical girl is definitely my second, just because I hate Freud. Freud is a quack, and deserves to be treated like one.
Yeah.
Our field could have very well functioned without Freud. He came up with a few things that are useful in the field today, but that could have just as easily been somebody else. He's just basically an addict that wanted a way to prescribe cocaine for himself and harass women. All right, so
On that note,
moving on. Best low budget feature. Clementine. Not the first time we'll see that one. Cool Summer. The Curve. Psycho Ape. Sebastian's Unholy Flesh, and Vampire Dad. Well, I'll start us off. Cool Summer and Psycho Ape are my two favorites. And it's really hard. Psycho Ape is such an enjoyable film. I just love that film. So I'll probably end up with the vote, even though I want to vote for Cool Summer because I like Evan Jacobs' work, and it really does speak to me on those levels. But no, and Sebastian's Unholy Flesh is a distant third, which to Jacob's chagrin.
It's a distant 6 on my list.
So go ahead with your 2, Jacob.
Well, for this one, the most purely enjoyable one for me was Vampire Dad. And I wanted to have that as my number one. But to be perfectly honest, the best film of these 6 is Clementine. And I didn't dislike it. I think it's a perfectly good movie. So even though I put money into The Curve, it's not my top pick. It would be probably my distant third. Psycho Ape and Cool Summer both had a lot going for them, but not enough to put them at the top. So I would say Clementine followed by Vampire Dad.
So what about your 2, Dave?
As far as low budget features, I'm gonna have to go with Psycho Ape as my first. I'm kind of surprised that Violet didn't make this list, but if I had to put a second up here, Sebastian's Unholy Flesh.
Well, I almost got that one up as my second, but Cool Summer definitely took that spot. Too many good films. Actually, I liked all of the films on this list, believe it or not. The Curve was my least favorite of the whole, but the rest were. But it was a good film. It was informative. I feel like the other film that came out this year about it, which I cannot, which also had Curve in it, was a better film. But still.
Okay.
It's the best supporting actress.
All right.
Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy. Charlene Swanky for Nomadland. Olivia Colman for The Father. Olivia Cook for Sound of Metal. Talia Ryder for Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. I think it's Always, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yoon Jong yes, for Minari. So, Dave, we'll start out with you. Out of just your thoughts, which 2 would you put?
I'm going to have to go with Olivia Colman from The Father. And knowing what I know of Minari, I would have to go with Yoo Jung Young.
Okay, very good choices there.
I'm sorry, but Glenn Close was never a appetizing looking woman to me.
Well, she's not supposed to in this. She plays a grandmother. But
I don't know. She was. I do think that she played a very good Cruella de Vil back in the day. But when I saw her in that baseball movie with Robert Redford, I was like, couldn't they pick more prettier woman or something. I don't know.
So, what about you, Jake? What would be your two?
Well, easily my favorite of the bunch, if I had to pick, would be Olivia Colman for the father. She did a phenomenal job with that role. I give her props. I really think all of these were solid choices. There are several that I would have liked to see in this category that I would have picked over Glenn Close or Swanky. But if I had to pick a second, Olivia Cook is probably my second. I'd love to see Yoo Jung Yoon get it, but honestly, she did not blow me away as much as she did a lot of other people. But she would probably be my third pick, I think. But definitely Olivia Colman is a solid first. Cook probably the second.
For me, Talia Ryder was the least of the ones for me because I did not. Well, I mean, again, to each their own on the observed performances. The only, yeah, the one from Minari is definitely my top on that because she did an excellent performance and I felt she deserved her Oscar. Glenn Close, I mean, she's just my favorite on this. Not because I like Glenn Close, so don't get me onto that, but just because the person that she portrayed, the way she acted it, it was just so believable. To me, she was more believable in her part than any of the others, except for maybe Swanky. But Swanky was already a nomad, so it was not a very far.
She was a riff on herself, basically.
Yeah, so it's not really a far stretch. But I really love Swanky's part and how she played it. So, but Glenn Close definitely, and yeah, both of them exceptional.
All right.
Best actress.
Yep.
So now we're going to the lead actress.
Yeah.
Carrie Mulligan for Promising Young Woman. Okay, go ahead.
Otmara Marrero
For Clementine. Rosamond Pike for I Care a Lot. Sophia Loren for La Vita Davanti de Se, Life Ahead. Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of Woman. And Yuri Han for Minari. So, to me, it's really, there's a lot of strong acting here.
There is.
But to me, it's Sophia Loren. I mean, she came out of retirement for this role, and it knocks it out of the park for me. She just is so good at it. You talk about somebody playing a part with dementia, she nails it. And also nails the part that she is not only living with that, but dealing with PTSD and still trying to do well by others at the same time. It is an amazing role and one that she should have gotten more recognition for because it's probably your swan song. And for such a great career, it is just spectacular. Second, though, it really is between Carrie Mulligan and Rosamund Pike. And since Carrie Mulligan already got an Oscar, I'll go with Rosamund Pike because didn't she get?
No, she hasn't gotten an Oscar.
Oh well, she won. She got the nomination.
She did.
And Rosamund Pike did not get the nomination. No. So I'll give this to Rosamund Pike as my vote because I care a lot. For me, I thought both of them did about equal for me on acting. And my goodness, did Rosamund Pike play a character that I wanted to hate more than anyone else? And getting to the end of that movie, that payoff.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my two.
It's kind of like minor spoilers to anyone who can draw dots from point A to point B. It's like the end of Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler.
So Jake, what are your two?
Easily Carrie Mulligan is my top pick here. Easily the one who is the odd one out is Otmara Marrero. She gave a great performance, but there's so many I would have put in that place.
Clementine really got heavy.
It really did. I agree with most of what you said about Loren, but she ended up just barely missing my cut. I would almost, if Mulligan didn't get it, for me, it's a toss-up between Yeri Han and Vanessa Kirby. And I'd probably go with Han. I think she was my highest ranked also ran, if I remember correctly, of the ones that got the nomination.
So what about you, Dave?
Carrie Mulligan would definitely be my top. But my second would probably be Rosamond Pike from I Care a Lot. I actually did see that one. Though I would put her in the same line as Glenn Close as being like not very attractive.
Well, she didn't have to be.
I would disagree. I think she's very attractive.
I don't
not
think
in this
so.
movie.
Not in this
Not
movie.
in this movie, no.
She's definitely not attractive in this movie. I'm not sure about other films, so I can't attribute to that. But she was very unattractive in this movie. I don't know why. She just looked really, really old.
Well, part of it was just she was such an unattractive person.
God, yeah, she plays such a terrible person.
Yes.
But the way that she did everything, I mean, she was such a total bitch. And Carrie Mulligan, she played a bitch, but she was doing it for the right reasons.
She was sympathetic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for those of you watching, acting for us does not necessarily portray purely about looks.
Right. Okay.
So let's talk supporting actor. Delroy Lindo for The Five Bloods. Ibrahima Aguirre. Okay, how do you say the last one?
I would say Gruyere, probably.
For The Life Ahead. And Jim Carrey for Sonic the Hedgehog. Leslie Odom Jr. for One Night in Miami. Paul Raci for Sound of Metal. And Peter Dinklage, I Care a Lot. So
that's an assortment.
It is an assortment. So Dave, what would you put on those two? Now I know the sex appeal for those is debatable, depending.
I don't know, that facial hair Dinklage had going on. Are you there, Dave?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
So best supporting actor?
Yeah.
Yep. What would be your two?
I would have to say Peter Dinklage would be my number one.
Oh, he was hilarious.
Oh, he was probably what saved the movie. With his mob shit. Oh, and his mob mother. That was something else.
Yeah.
I think that him and Rosamond Pike were perfect foils for one another.
But I guess I would have to say Jim Carrey in Sonic the Hedgehog for my second, because I don't know any of these other ones. So
Well, how about you, Jacob? I know your number one choice.
The number one definitely is Paul Raci for Sound of Metal. These are all good choices. I will admit, even Jim Carrey did. I would not have picked him for the top 6, but he did give a fine performance. And I think Ibrahim Aguirre should have been up for actor, not supporting actor, but he gave an excellent performance. But I do think the Academy robbed Delroy Lindo when they did not nominate him. And he would be my second pick. It would be Paul Raci followed by Delroy Lindo.
For me, it would be Leslie Odom Jr. for One Night in Miami. He just did a spectacular job.
He did.
Far and above the rest as far as I'm concerned. I'm not as in love with Paul Raci's performance as you are. I think he did fine, but I didn't feel like he was above everybody. I would say Delroy Lindo is my secondary.
Okay.
It's just the way that he did it, kind of that slight fall from sanity, just the general feel. As far as, and I'll admit, as far as the films by this director go, The Five Bloods is definitely in my top of what I've seen.
And you were talking with Loren about a character portraying PTSD. I think Lindo was absolutely...
he did a great job with that. He did. They're both there. Definitely watch Sound of Metal if you can, Dave. I don't know where you'll find it or if you have Prime enough to get it, but definitely worth seeing.
And remind me again, One Night in Miami, was that Prime or Netflix?
That was Prime.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about films that portray a lot of black actors in it, that would definitely be.
Well, yeah.
That's got. I mean, you're talking about like, let's see here. You've got Muhammad Ali. You've got Malcolm X. You've got. Gosh, I can't think of the
Sam
other.
Cooke
Sam
and
Cooke
Jim
and Jim
Brown.
Brown. Yeah, I mean that's just yeah.
Okay.
And from the same group that brought you Fences. So best actor. Andy Samberg for Palm Springs, Anthony Hopkins for The Father, Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Colin Firth for Supernova, Kingsley Ben-Adir for One Night in Miami, Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal. So, I, of course, obviously am going to be giving my vote for Chadwick Boseman. I mean, the man himself was an amazing individual. And not just acting wise, but the fact that he was, from what I've heard, a very wonderful person. He was good to most people. He cared quite a bit, and I do feel like he deserved that award. Riz Ahmed is who I would give it to if that was not Chadwick Boseman's swan song. I would definitely give it to Riz Ahmed because Riz Ahmed blows the rest out of the water. They're all good performances. Don't get me wrong. They're all extremely incredible performances. But Riz Ahmed's performance is just on a different tier. How about yourself, Jake?
I really want to go Chadwick Boseman. I really do. And he was great in Ma Rainey. But like you said, Riz Ahmed just was phenomenal in the film. All of these were great. Andy Samberg is the weakest link, and it was still a really solid performance. All of these were phenomenal performances, especially the other five. I really, really, really am conflicted between whether I should give it to Ahmed or Boseman. They are practically tied. I might end up going with Boseman in the end just because it's his swan song, but it's really close.
How about you, Dave?
I would have to go with Anthony Hopkins as my first. In The Father. I mean, he really performed really well in there.
Oh, he won the Oscar for it.
Yeah.
Well, Oscars don't really mean anything because there were some people who probably should have deserved the Oscar over other people. So,
right.
Andy Samberg from Palm Springs. I don't know any of these others, so I would have to do as my second. Andy Samberg wasn't bad. I mean, he had some interesting quips.
Yeah.
Let's go with voice actor.
All right.
Ben Schwartz for Sonic the Hedgehog, Jamie Foxx for Soul, Peter Dinklage for The Croods: A New Age, Sean Bean for Wolfwalkers, and Simon McBurney for Wolfwalkers, and Tom Holland for Onward. Onward being the other Pixar film.
Yes.
So Dave, you've seen part of Sonic the Hedgehog. Have you seen any of the other ones of these animated ones?
No.
Well, what would be on your instinct? What would be your top two there?
My top one would be Ben Schwartz for Sonic the Hedgehog. My second would probably be Peter Dinklage with The Croods: A New Age.
If you thought he was hilarious in I Care a Lot, he was hilarious as a voice actor.
He's hilarious in everything that he's in. I mean, he's in Knights of Badassdom, which was a badass movie. So
you do yourself a disservice by not seeing Wolfwalkers. Most definitely.
I'm the one who sent it to you. I knew it was. I knew it was one that you would probably want to watch. I just didn't watch it myself.
Oh, it's a good film, Dave. Definitely don't discount it for the animation. And Onward's also a really good one. There is no question about race on Onward.
Mhm.
See, Onward to me reminded me of when I saw the trailer for Hell and Back.
Okay. Did you?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Sure. It's sorry, your turn to Jake.
Yeah, and I don't think you did yours either.
yeah.
But yeah, this one's easily Jamie Foxx for Soul. I really honestly can't remember who I had next on my list. It might very well have been Ben Schwartz. I would say it's probably between Schwartz and Peter Dinklage, but these are all really solid choices. None of these were bad performances. They were all really solid. And I think Simon McBurney was probably my lowest ranked of the bunch. But they were all solid. So I would say Fox for the win, Schwartz, maybe Dinklage. I'll go with Dinklage because he amused me so much.
I'll go with Jamie Foxx for Soul. Again, exquisite performance. And Jamie Foxx really does a great job voice acting. I mean, I liked him in that. I liked him in Rio.
Yeah.
He was really good in that. Ben Schwartz for Sonic the Hedgehog would be a second. As much as it pains me to say, there is not a single film on this particular list that I would not recommend somebody go see, which is...
It pains you to say that?
It pains me to say that because I would never have said this. I would never have... Before this whole thing came out, I would never have said Sonic the Hedgehog would be on a list of recommended films to see. But yes... All of them recommended. All of them spectacular.
Okay.
So, voice actress Emma Stone for The Croods, New Age. Eva Whittaker for Wolfwalkers. Honor Nifsi for Wolfwalkers. Julia Louis-Dreyfus for Onward. Miyu Tomita for Made in Abyss. Tina Fey for Soul. So, I'm going to give it to... It's between Eva Whittaker and Honor Nifsi, yes, for Wolfwalkers. Both of them are child actresses, and both of them did spectacular jobs. Because it's not just about, in my opinion, the fact that you've got somebody who's well versed, but somebody who's in that position doing that good a job. They don't have the right to do that good a job as they did in that film. So I would give it between those two.
Okay.
Here you go.
For me? Well, unfortunately, since I have not seen the Japanese dub of Made in Abyss, I can't comment on Miyu Tomita. But as far as the others, they are all solid. And I agree with you. The child actors, especially Honor Nifsi, who plays the main character, I really was impressed. I can't remember the order that I went with, but I want to say I had Emma Stone followed by Tina Fey. And that seems like a good way to go. Because both the Stone, Fey, and Louise Dreyfus all gave really solid performances. They're seasoned actors who are very talented voice actors. I would like to see Nifsi and Whittaker do more in the future, definitely. But I'm gonna say maybe Emma Stone followed by Tina Fey would be my reluctantly choice. I don't know where that thought went.
So Dave, I know you haven't seen any of these, but based on what you've heard, what would be the two that you would think possibly?
I would have to say Lloyd Kaufman for The Last Blockbuster.
For voice actress. For voice actors.
Oh, voice actors.
You skipped ahead a bit.
Sorry. Emma Stone. Emma Stone, The Croods, A New Age.
Okay.
And I would have to say Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Okay.
All right.
From Onward.
Okay.
Very good. All right. So, because that's my...
Now Mr. Kaufman comes into play.
All right.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
This bit player, Chadwick Boseman for The Five Bloods, Evan Jacobs for Death Toilet 3 When Duty Calls. Lloyd Kaufman, Last Blockbuster. Michael Keaton, The Trial of Chicago 7. Zima for The Kid Detective. And What Movie 1 and Fluffy Gamer for Adverse. So Dave, you were saying...
I was saying that Lloyd Kaufman from the Blockbuster, the last Blockbuster, because for some reason I like the fact that he dissed on the Blockbuster franchise, and Evan Jacobs in his death toilet scene.
That scene was funny, actually.
It was funny.
So how about you, Jake?
Well, my top pick for this one when I submitted it was definitely Michael Keaton for The Trial of Chicago 7. I thought it was a phenomenal cameo. It was one of his more interesting performances I've seen. I really liked all the ones that I submitted, Zima and Chadwick Boseman. I do not believe that Wet Movie 1 and Fluffy Gamer constituted a memorable cameo. No offense to them, but I had to strain to see them in the movie, and I wouldn't have even known they were in the movie if I wasn't looking specifically for them. And and then Evan Jacobs' Death Toilet was, I didn't think really that much of the movie, so they would not have made my list. Now, I will admit, I did not even think about taking a cameo from a documentary, and it's a good idea. I didn't even think about it. So if I'm being honest, I am sorely tempted to agree that Lloyd Kaufman would probably get my vote in this category. Michael Keaton is still easily my second choice, but Kaufman edges him ever so slightly. Yeah.
So if I'm going memorable, obviously Lloyd Kaufman is number one. Everybody kind of evens out for me, except for Zima, which I'm not familiar with the person in general, so I wouldn't have even recognized them when they first appeared. So I didn't remember the cameo at all. As far as, I would say, it's between Evan Jacobs and Chadwick Boseman. I'll probably go with Evan Jacobs just because I like that death scene there. But mainly because I know Lloyd Kaufman's going to be getting my vote anyway, so it doesn't matter on that.
Right.
It was just too good.
Yeah, it was good.
All right, Best Director. Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. Darius Marder for Sound of Metal. Evan Jacobs, Cool Summer. Kristen Johnson for Dick Johnson is Dead. Laura Gallagher for Clementine. Again, Clementine. Peter Doctor and Kemp Powers. And Kemp Powers for Soul. So, for me, oddly enough, it's going to be between Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, and because it is a movie. And I think it's overrated. I think it was vastly overrated, but I think that she did a spectacular job directing. And then, as much as I love Evan Jacobs, I would have to give it to Kristen Johnson for Dick Johnson is Dead. I thought that was also good. It also deals with the subject of there's a lot of dementia-related films this year. Matter of fact, if you're looking for another dementia-related film, Dave, Dick Johnson is Dead, but it's actually a much lighter note, more enlightening, not necessarily darker, but also a very good documentary. That would be my two. Jake?
Now, I have to admit, I would definitely excise Laura Gallagher from this list, and frankly, Evan Jacobs. They both did a good job with their films. There were some much more solid directors this year. I actually, and I don't think I had Darius Marder and Pete Docter and Kemp Powers at the top of my list, even though I loved the films. I can't recall who I would have picked. I think Chloe Zhao was probably my number one, partly because she was dealing with a lot of non-professional actors.
Yeah.
And that takes some skill to incorporate.
Thing, yeah.
And then, of course, Kirsten Johnson, as you pointed out, dealing with someone who is dealing with dementia and who happens to be her father, that takes some directorial skill. So I do think Zhao would be my number one. And the number two would probably be a toss-up between Johnson and Martyr. I really don't know which route I would go, but I'll probably go with Darius Martyr as the number two, but it's really close. Really close.
So I'm glad I brought that to the attention for that.
Yeah.
So Dave, how about you?
I haven't seen many of these, so I would have to go with Pete Docter and Kemp Powers for Soul.
Mm-hmm.
As my top director, even though I love Evan Jacobs. But he would be my close second because I haven't seen any of these other films. So,
so best stunt work.
All right.
Birds of Prey, The Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, Bloodshot, Fei Long Wo Gong, Enter the Fat Dragon, The Gentleman, Monster Hunter, and Tenet. So, Dave, what would be your two for that? Stunt work.
Stunt work, I would have to say my top one would probably be Bloodshot.
Understandable.
And my second would be The Gentleman.
Interesting.
Very nice.
Even though I like Monster Hunter as well. Monster Hunter was a pretty good contender.
Yeah, I got a lot of good contenders on this list.
But yeah, Bloodshot would be my number one. The Gentleman a close behind, and Monster Hunter would be my third. So,
So how about you, Jake?
I still have yet to see Enter the Fat Dragon, unfortunately. So that one I can't really comment on.
Shoot, your brother might like that one.
I'm trying to get him to watch it. That said, the remaining five all had great stunt work. All of them were really solid, and it's hard to pick a winner. And so I'm probably going to go with my favorite two, Birds of Prey and The Gentleman. But really, it's hard to pick a winner here. I might actually. I know Birds of Prey had stunt choreography by the people behind John Wick, and I do think that kind of shows. So I'll probably give that one the edge because, of course, John Wick had some pretty phenomenal stunt work in that. But I will go with The Gentleman as my second because it's his only nomination. You know?
So for me, definitely Enter the Fat Dragon is going to be my my top spot. It's just whenever you work with one of these types of martial arts films, it's just a lot of stunt work goes into it. And it was spectacular. It really was. I recommend it just because it's a fun film.
I want to see it.
Especially if you like martial arts movies. Shoot, if you like Jackie Chan movies, it has a very Jackie Chan feel to it. Birds of Prey would probably be my next one up there, especially with that sandwich scene.
Okay.
All right, so best visual effects.
Yes.
Birds of Prey. I'm not going for the rest of that. Bloodshot, Love and Monsters, The New Mutants, Tenet, and Wonder Woman 1984. And I gotta say, there are some amazing effects in all this. This is an incredibly hard category. I would go. It's really between Love and Monsters and The New Mutants for me because they are both really amazing in effects. I had thought that New Mutants wasn't going to make that list, but after seeing it, I was wrong. I admit it does. Bloodshot definitely comes close, but not to those two. Tenet was also there, but not on the level that I'm used to with Christopher Nolan. And like I say, it's just those are cut above the rest. So how about you, Jake?
This is kind of a three-way between Bloodshot, Love and Monsters, and New Mutants. I really want to put New Mutants up just because. But honestly, I thought Bloodshot had the most impressive effects of the year, and Love and Monsters might have the edge over the New Mutants.
How about you, Dave?
I would have to say the New Mutants is my top. Although Love and Monsters comes in a clear second. I love that giant bear in the New Mutants. That's something to behold. I mean, although I loved Bloodshot and its visual effects, I mean, these were three really good contenders for each other. Wonder Woman wasn't bad, and Birds of Prey wasn't bad. But I would have to go with the New Mutants.
All right. Oh. So, hey, we're thinking along similar lines, at least.
For some of these.
So, production design. Dick Johnson is Dead. Made in Abyss. Mank. Trial of Chicago 7. The Turning. And Wonder Woman 84. So, Dave, what would you think? Production design.
I would have to say... let's see. Let's look. I would have to say The Turning, as far as production, because that's and Wonder Woman behind it as a clear second, especially the very beginning of Wonder Woman, where she was running through all that shit.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good setup. I haven't seen any of the others to say whether I like or dislike. So yeah, I think those are my choices.
How about you, Jake?
I thought they were all really, really solid choices. Dick Johnson is Dead's probably the weakest of the bunch, in my opinion. Even Wonder Woman 84, they did a really good job capturing that 80s vibe, and I will give them that. And The Turning, yes, I will give it props. It did a great job. But for me, I would imagine that probably it's a toss-up between the exacting attention to period detail in Mank and the absolutely stunning fantasy creations in Made in Abyss. Those, I really couldn't say. I might go with Made in Abyss as my top, but it's really hard to call.
I would probably go between Made in Abyss and The Turning. Though Dick Johnson is Dead, I did like what they did with what they had.
Yeah.
It was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But again, The Turning, just that big mansion, all the creativity that went into that. I just love Haunted Mansion pieces. Except for the film Haunted Mansion. Made in Abyss, it is just, that's what it's all about. I mean, really, it is. The world is what it is all about. Yes. All right. Makeup. Oh, sorry, Dave. I was totally. No, wait, no, it wasn't Dave.
No, you did.
I was right.
But I do want to say before we move on, just a thought for next year's awards. I'm thinking character design will be another one that we probably want to add for animated features, because that's probably a fun.
Sure, you could do character design as just a total, because.
Well, I think we'll talk more on that later, but I'm thinking some more animation categories. Anyway.
So let's talk best makeup and hairstyling. Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah.
Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of Fun Harley Quinn. Clementine. Emma. Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga, and The Man Who Sold His Skin.
All right.
So, for me, this really pains me to say this, but I would say my top choice is Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga.
Yes.
I don't want to, but it's definitely to me really up there. And Emma would be a close second on that because they did a lot of work into those hairstyles and period pieces. How about you, Jake?
Well, sadly, I've not yet seen Bad Boys for Life. I have to admit, I can't comment on that one. And I really don't think Clementine is one of the top ones of the year. I've seen several films I would have ranked higher. But it has good makeup and hairstyling, but I would have ranked several higher. The remaining four are all excellent.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely excellent choices. And I would probably go, again, I can't remember what I had at number one, but I think I'd probably go with Eurovision and Birds of Prey, of the ones that were actually nominated. Both of them had a lot to do with the actual hairstyling, and there was some makeup involved with certain characters, particularly in Birds of Prey. As I've said before, maintaining Harley's look through all the crap she goes through in those films, that takes some impressive makeup.
Very impressive.
And some of the other characters as well had some going for them. Emma and The Man Who Sold His Skin were both phenomenal, and it's just, especially The Man Who Sold His Skin, that visa makeup, that it's really hard not giving that one a call too.
It was amazing there. And shoot, I really liked the production design too, but it didn't quite make that cut. So Dave, what were your two?
For best makeup and hairstyling?
Yeah.
I would have to say Birds of Prey. It would be my number one for hairstyling, because there's nothing like Harley and her hairstyles. I mean, her cheerleader pigtails, you know. And I really do think that Birds of Prey was a phenomenal step in the right direction for DC.
Yes.
So, that being said, Bad Boys for Life would be my second.
Okay.
I haven't seen any of the others, so.
Best costume design: The Craft Legacy, Emma, Hawk and Rev Vampire Slayer, News of the World, Trial of Chicago 7, and Wonder Woman 84. All right, Dave, what were your two there?
That
was an interesting grouping.
It is.
I would have to say News of the World would be the best costume design.
Nice.
Very good.
So I actually saw that film, and I thought that it was really, really good for its time period and its people that it was trying to represent. And I get that times were rough at that point in time. So at first I wasn't sure what to think, because you hear Tom's voice all the way throughout, but he looks the part. You know, it's not that he doesn't look the part; it's his voice. You don't necessarily see or hear his voice in the Old West. You know, entirely. But I loved it for the costume design, and I guess I would have to say I want to, since I put Hawk and Rev in here a couple of times, I would like to put out Hawk and Rev Vampire Slayers for their costume design as well.
I will grant it was good.
So, Jake, what's your favorite on this?
Well, I really, really, really wanted to see Eurovision in this category.
Oh, it had great costumes.
But
I nominated it.
And there were some others I would have loved to have seen here, like Birds of Prey and others. I would easily have ranked those above The Craft or Hawk and Rev, but they both had excellent costumes, I will grant. For me, the clear winner, and this one is Emma. A phenomenal costume design, just absolutely stunning. News of the World and Trial of the Chicago 7 would probably duke it out for second place. I'd probably lean. That's hard to call, but I guess I'd probably lean to News of the World.
It's between Emma and News of the World for me.
Okay.
Haven't decided yet. All right, best sound.
Okay.
Bloodshot.
Mm-hmm.
Clementine. News of the World. Palindrome. First entry in that category. Soul. And Sound of Metal. Well, to me, Sound of Metal is like just shoo-in.
Yeah.
There's no doubt to me. That movie is all about sound. And though I gotta give it to some of the others, they are pretty good with what they do.
Mm-hmm.
None of them compare.
Mm-hmm.
Soul may be a distant second.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Sound of Metal. Jake?
Well, I would not have nominated Clementine or Palindrome for this particular category, although they're both good. I would say Bloodshot is a fairly distant fourth. Soul is probably third. News of the World would edge it out barely. And Sound of Metal is far and away the lead. In a perfect world, this could not possibly lose.
Oh, it's going to lose because people ain't seen it.
Yeah, I know. That's why I say in a perfect world. But Sound of Metal, clear winner. News of the World, barely edging Soul for the second place.
How about you, Dave?
This one's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't seen Soul, nor Sound of Metal, nor Palindrome, nor Clementine. So that leaves only two.
Well, then you know it's two you pick.
I would have to say News of the World would be in number one, and Bloodshot would be a close second behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The one I keep mentioning, News of the World, that Sandstorm. I mean, just the sound, that alone was just phenomenal sound.
News of the World and Bloodshot both deserve their places on the list. But Sound of Metal just outclasses them. It just
okay.
And I hate talking about Sound of Metal enough because I feel like I'm starting to dislike it just for talking it up so much. But it is a good film. All right, best original score. Billy Jupp. Actually, it's got a lot of names. Jake, you're going to read it.
Billy Jupp for Palindrome. Branford Marsalis, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Bruno Coulet, Wolfwalkers. Katie Jarzabowski for Clementine. Lin-Manuel Miranda for Hamilton. Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, and John Baptiste for Soul.
All right. So, Dave, you're two for that.
First of all, I've been wanting to say this for quite some time. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom sounds racist. No offense. But
it's actually the name of one of the songs they perform.
Okay. Considering the time that this takes place in, that name would not be out of. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would have to say that Hamilton.
Okay.
Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton would be the best original score in this thing because I have actually seen Hamilton, and Soul would actually be a close behind.
Okay.
So, how about you, Jake?
Well, again, I liked the score in Clementine, but it was easily outclassed by the rest of these. I doubt Hamilton really, truly qualifies as an original score. I have doubts about whether the music Billy Jupp put forward in Palindrome was original. And I know that Branford Marsalis' music in Ma Rainey was technically original music, but maybe not a score per se. So that right there narrows it down to two choices. But then again, Soul, we kind of really the only one that we know for sure is a straight up original score is Wolfwalkers. And in a perfect world, Bruno Coulet would be a multiple Oscar winner already. But I wasn't as blown away by that score as I was by the music in Soul and Ma Rainey. So for me, I'm going to say Soul is my definite number one. And Ma Rainey's would be my number 2, but with my deep regrets that Wolfwalkers didn't get it.
I would go with Soul and Wolfwalkers.
Okay.
Just because if I'm looking at it from just the previous scores related to and
Right.
related films, and just the
Mhm.
score itself is really
Right.
decent, but Soul does knock it out of the way.
Mhm.
So
Plus, there is the amusement value of the Nine Inch Nails frontman winning for a Disney Pixar film.
that
I
is
just
funny.
find that amusing.
So let's talk about best of use of music in film, which
Mhm.
is the one of the new
One of our
categories.
new ones,
So
yay!
Crip Camp, A Disability Revolution, Eurovision Song Contest, Story of Fire Saga, In Search of Darkness Part 2, My Rainey's Black Bottom, One Night in Miami, and Soul. They're all strong contenders in their own rights. In Search of Darkness is probably the weakest of the category, but
And it's the one I haven't seen.
but it is a pretty strong one nevertheless. Probably for me, it's between Crip Camp and Eurovision Song Contest. Both have amazing. Again, I hate saying this, but Eurovision definitely has an amazing soundtrack to it, and
Yes.
its use of existing music is just as strong as the original music.
Mm-hmm.
And Crip Camp, though, has a masterful weaving of the time and the songs of that time. So I'm good with those.
Okay. Me? Well, like I said, I have not seen In Search of Darkness Part 2, so I can't comment on it. I would have thought this would be like a three-way match between Soul, Ma Rainey, and One Night in Miami. I really love the music in Crip Camp, but it's not on the same level as those three because, especially Ma Rainey and Soul, music is integral to the film. In fact, the only reason Sound of Metal did not get on here is that I didn't like the music as much. That's really the only. But the thing is, I have to admit, Eurovision blows them all out of the water. And this, with what I intended this category to be, what I intended for this category, Eurovision Song Contest is far and away the leader in this one. And I would probably put Soul as number 2 with Ma Rainey very close behind.
So what about you, Dave?
Best use of music in film. I would say Soul. Though I haven't seen it, and I would put In Search of Darkness Part 2 in the second category, only because I haven't seen it per se yet. But you know, it would be a shame not to have it in the list for that, because with 80s horror films, of course, you had the music behind it. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, original song. Go for it, Jake.
Okay, our choices are Brandi Carlile, Phil Hanseroth, and Tim Hanseroth, nominated for the song Carried Me With You from Onward. Kevin Penkin, nominated for Forever Lost from Made in Abyss, Dawn of the Deep Soul. Daniel Pemberton and Celeste Waite, nominated for Hear My Voice from The Trial of the Chicago 7. James Kelly and Greg Behan, nominated for Return to Splatter Farm theme from Return to Splatter Farm. Leslie Odom Jr. and Sam Ashworth, nominated for Speak Now from One Night in Miami. And Janelle Monáe, Nate Rocket Wonder, and George A. Peters II, nominated for Turntables from All In, The Fight for Democracy.
All right, Dave. The good thing about these is you can actually listen to every single one of these, even the one. Now, you'd actually have to watch the movie to hear the one from the Japanese one, but
Made in Abyss, yeah.
But otherwise, you could actually hear all of these very quickly online. But any two that you would pick?
I would have to say Return to Splatter Farm theme. I haven't heard it, but I imagine it's pretty great. just because of the fact that I know who directed it and all that jazz. So, Carried Me With You from Onward. That would be my second.
All right.
How about you, Jake?
I liked. Well, I have not yet seen All In, but I've watched the music video a couple of times for Turntables, and it's a phenomenal song, and it's a great video. I don't know if I should vote for it without seeing the movie, but on the strength of the song itself, it is probably actually my favorite one of the bunch. Barely. We'll get to the Return to Spider Farm was fun, but it was the weakest of the bunch. And Forever Lost was nice, but it would not be one I'd put at the top. But Speak Now, Hear My Voice, Turntables, and Carried Me With You are all great, great songs. I'm shocked that Carried Me With You did not get an Oscar nod, and Turntables got kind of left out too.
Come to think of it, Soul is not in here.
Well, it doesn't have an original song.
Oh, there you go.
Carried Me With You is my number one pick. And I'd probably put Turntables barely edging out Hear My Voice at the number 2 spot. Yeah.
Mine is odd because I have debated it between Turntables and Return to Splatter Farm theme, and I actually would have to give it to Return to Splatter Farm because not only do I like it, but it's the only one that I automatically start humming the theme when I hear it. The others, I'm just like, I can't remember how that goes. I remember I liked it when I heard it originally, and there's a lot that goes into that because it's not just about is the song good, but is the song memorable.
Right.
And to me, I remember the feeling of liking Turntables, but I remember the sound and the feeling for Splatter.
Right.
So that's where I have to go. And probably it's the only one that I could play even like a couple seconds of and not get copyright strike for.
Right.
So let's go. We're almost done. To best editing. Clementine. Dick Johnson Is Dead. The Father. The Hunt. Sound of Metal. And The Turning. You know, the one that Palindrome has the best chance of, it's not in there for.
Right.
But out of the ones that I've seen here, and The Hunt is making an appearance, which is also pretty cool.
Yeah. Surprisingly good movie.
Probably between The Father and Sound of Metal. I haven't decided which, but both of them have excellent editing to them. All right, Dick.
Well, of the bunch, I would say Clementine and The Turning are probably the weakest links. The Hunt was good, but I give documentary filmmakers a lot of props. You got it. It really, really, really works. But also performance movies get a lot of props. So I really want both Sound of Metal and Dick Johnson Is Dead to do well with this. And it's really hard to pick. I'll probably go with Sound of Metal for my number 2. But the number 1 was The Father. That was a movie that lived and died on the editing. It was phenomenally edited, and I've very rarely been so blown away by a film's editing. So The Father is a clear number 1 for me.
Yeah. All right. So,
did Dave
sorry, Dave. Your 2 for editing?
My 2 probably. Okay. The Father would probably be my number 1, and then I would have to say The Hunt.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
It does have good editing.
Yeah.
Best cinematography. Between Shadow and Soul, Clementine, Mank, My Octopus Teacher, Palindrome, and Violet. All right, Dave, which one has the best camera work? Which 2?
Best cinematography. I would have to say Violet is my number 1.
Okay.
But between Shadow and Soul, from what I saw of it, because I glanced through it, I really loved the cinematography of that one.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, Jake?
Well, I thought the cinematography was fine in Clementine, Palindrome, and Violet, but really the other three were on a whole other plane. I thought I absolutely loved the camera work in Between Shadow and Soul. It was phenomenal. But even that was not on the same level. Mank and My Octopus Teacher were just, they were two of the most gorgeously shot films of the year. There are no question. My Octopus Teacher is one of the prettiest nature docs I've ever seen. And Mank, just in terms of using black and white, it did it even better than Between Shadow and Soul. They were just absolutely gorgeous. And I have a hard time picking my number one. It's really hard to say. I thought Mank was the clear winner until I saw My Octopus Teacher. So I'll go with that. Mank number one, My Octopus Teacher number two, but it is close.
To me, My Octopus Teacher is the clear number one for me.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to pick a second one, but more than likely I'm going to vote for My Octopus Teacher. Palindrome, just because it's probably the strongest category for it that's been nominated for. Like I said, to me, the strongest category that it should have been up for would have been editing, because it had pretty decent editing.
It was decent
for what it was. It was a very artsy film.
Artsy.
Very artistic.
Very artsy.
So, best animation in film: The Croods, A New Age, Made in Abyss. Let's see, A Whisker Away, Onward, Soul, and Wolfwalkers. So this one was a hard one because you have some spectacular animation on all of them. I mean, my knee-jerk reaction would be to go to Soul as my number one. A Whisker Away, to me, is the weakest in the category. I'll probably go with Soul and Wolfwalkers, though no shade to the others entirely, because they all are very expertly animated, especially the Croods, because it looks beautiful. The same thing with, matter of fact, like I say, they all look spectacular. A Whisker Away is probably the weakest in the category, and even that one's strong. So, yeah, Soul and Wolfwalkers for me. Because Wolfwalkers just has that amazing flowing style. If you look at it on the surface, it does not look all that great, but when you see it in action, it's amazing how well that flows. How about you, Jake?
Well, I agree with you. They're all phenomenal. I really was disappointed that A Whisker Away didn't do better. I loved the film and didn't get any support for it, but it got one nod. But I will reluctantly agree that it may be the weakest of the six. It's really hard to pick a number one, but if I had to, I'd probably say Soul, followed closely by Made in Abyss, followed closely by Wolfwalkers, followed closely by the Croods. But, they're all right there. Okay.
How about you, Dave?
This was a tough decision for me. I would have to say, from what I know about it, I mean, I clearly glanced at Wolfwalkers before I sent it to you. So I would have to say Wolfwalkers would be my number one. And then I would have to go with maybe the Croods, New Age as a clear second contender.
All right.
Last one.
Poster and cover design, which, if you haven't looked at this, you can take a quick moment to glance on Google. Amityville Vibrator, Clementine, Okay, The Mole Agent.
The Mole Agent. Yeah.
In Search of Darkness Part 2, Love and Monsters and the Witches. So, Dave, which two have the best poster and cover design? If you don't know it, do a quick Google because it's not, yeah. You don't have to see the films to know what those are about.
I would have to say Amityville Vibrator has quite an interesting... interesting... Yeah, I wouldn't say that it would be the best. But I would have to say it would be my second.
Okay.
But as far as best posters, I actually thought the In Search of Darkness Part 2 it had a good poster. Even though I liked all these others, and what I'm not sure about Clementine. Not even sure I want to watch it, but
well, it's an interesting film. It wasn't a bad film by any means, but I was surprised about how many nominations it got, but it was still a good film.
Well, when we get more participation, that'll be less likely to happen.
Yep,
right?
that's why we need more. That's why we need more people participating. All right, Jake, what would be your top two?
Well, of course, I still haven't seen In Search of Darkness or Amityville Vibrator, but I have seen the posters.
Yep.
Because those and the Witches, I saw the post, and Clementine, I saw the posters. Either I haven't seen the film yet, or I saw the film and then saw the posters. So it's kind of hard to say how this worked in terms of getting me to want to see the film. But I will say The Mole Agent and Love and Monsters, both, I saw the poster and said, I want to see that film. They were that good. Like, this is part of what this category is all about. If you see the poster and you're like, damn it, I got to see that movie. That's part of what that's about. And I do admit the poster for In Search of Darkness is pretty badass, and it does kind of put that vibe in my head a little bit. But The Mole Agent is clearly my number one for the year, and I really did love
big magnifying glass.
I love that, and I really did love the poster for Love and Monsters. So that would be my second.
Obviously, for me, it's In Search of Darkness Part 2. It's just that sitting alone in the dark, watching the TV, and you can see those two columns with all the different intricate monster films in there. It's just an amazing design, and I had a different one for number 2, but going based on what you were saying, I would have to give it to Amityville Vibrator as the second, because if you're talking about a poster that truly got me interested in what the film was about, I can't disagree that was probably the most effective out of between that one and that one, probably the second most effective out of the ones I saw. So, out of all of this, before we go, Dave, I know you have quite a few that you could watch. Any of those, since we've been talking about it, have we ignited any interest in any of the other films that you have not seen yet?
Some of it yes, some of it no. I'm gonna do what I can between this and the end of the week. So especially since I don't know what's gonna happen after today, since my paycheck didn't come through. So, but we'll see what I can accomplish. I'll definitely be sitting at home for a little bit because I refuse to work for free.
Yeah, so. Understandable. Well, with that being said, any recommendations, Jacob?
Recommendations?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I definitely would recommend Sound of Metal, and if you got time, The Maiden Abyss, you really have to watch all three. That's part of the issue. And part of the issue I'm running into is I really want to see In Search of Darkness Part 2, but you got to watch Part 1, and there's freaking 8 hours between them. That's going to be difficult to do.
That's how you could
But-
watch part 2 without watching part
But
1.
you know, you just wouldn't get as much out of it. And you know, it's like, and I know Dave agrees with me on this. You know, you never want to talk in the discussions about the the second in the series, right?
Right.
And I would definitely say, I would, if you find time to watch Wolfwalker's Soul Onward, um, Mank and Trial of the Chicago 7. I really enjoyed both. And Defy Bloods. I think those are all really excellent films and worth watching. Those would probably be my strongest like recommendations, I think. And if you like Peter Dinklage, definitely watch The Croods. You get to see him play a hipster bro character. It's really funny.
Yeah. If it was me, I would say if there was one film, probably Sound of Metal, just because that would give you a wider range for the entirety of
Right.
it, if you can find it. Made, I mean, I would say though, you know, if you have any categories that you haven't seen any or only have one in,
Yeah.
that would probably be the, of course, the biggest thing to seek. So probably an animated, especially because that's one. Shoot, with Soul, you could knock out a whole bunch of. You could put like one in multiple categories for that.
And I suppose, in fairness to our voter who really, 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 really loved Clementine, it is a good movie.
It is a good movie.
It's not, I think, on par with a lot of these others, but it's good to know where they were coming from, I guess.
And Palindrome is a very,
it's weird.
very weird, but one of interest nevertheless. So, with that being said, I thank you very much for participating with us, Dave. It's always good to have some extra insight and to let our people here who may not or watch it know that this could go anywhere.
And,
I mean, really could.
Yeah, and anyone who is watching, as we said earlier, you know, those of you who are regulars and want to participate, by all means, let us know. We would love participation. And if you have some thoughts, you feel like we really were leading you astray, or you just really agree, or whatever, feel free.
Yeah, feel free to let us know in the comments. What would be films that you feel, of the nominated films, nominations are closed, unfortunately, that you would be like thinking, yeah, this would be a cool thing to go up. And if you miss the voting by the end of this week, you can still catch the award show because we're going to do that at the end of September. So we got some fun stuff on the horizon, but we'll know the winners by this time next week.
Yes, we will.
If it's just me, Jake, and Dave voting, we've got one other person who voted. Then we've got like we're gonna have a very interesting scattering there. All right. Well, we'll see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.